All right, guys, today we're going to talk about how we get different genes from our parents and how those different genes combine to give us the different traits that we have. So we get one gene from mom, one gene from dad, and then those are going to combine in some way to give us whatever we have. First, I want to talk about just a review of how we get our genes from our parents. So we have, let's say, an egg cell here, and it has 23 chromosomes in it, okay? And then you have a sperm cell, and it has 23 chromosomes in it, and this goes and fertilizes the egg, and then together, what we get is a fertilized egg cell, and it has 46 chromosomes in it. And then this is you. Well, it's you very early on, and it divides and it divides and it divides and it divides millions and millions of times, and then finally we get you. Okay, so in all of your cells, in every single one of your cells, you have 46 chromosomes, and they come in pairs. So you have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So this one, let's say, comes from mom, this one comes from dad, and you have 23 pairs of those, which equal 46 chromosomes in every one of the nuclei of your cells in your body. Okay, so that's how I just want to start that. So that's a good thing to have down, this little diagram here. All right, but I'm going to get rid of all this. Goodbye. Okay, so now what I want to talk about is, more specifically, is the different genes that we get on those chromosomes from mom and dad. So the different genes that we get, or the genes that we get from mom and dad, come in different flavors. And we call these different flavors of genes alleles. So let's write this down. So an allele is a different version or different versions of a gene. Okay, so an easy example, or just like a kind of made up example, because hair color, for example, works differently than this. But let's say there is a gene for hair color. Maybe your mom gives you one gene, the allele for dark hair, and your dad maybe gives you the allele for light hair. But it's both the allele. They're both the gene for hair color. You can just have different alleles. So let's start here with this drawing. I'm going to draw two chromosomes. Okay. I like to draw the chromosomes in pairs because they always compare. Let's say that this is just like pair number one. You have 23 of these pairs. I'm just saying this is pair number one of 23. Okay. So on these chromosomes, oh, hold on. Maybe this one comes from dad. This one comes from mom. Those are the symbols, male, female kind of thing. And so let's see. We can have a gene on this one. Remember, chromosomes are just made of DNA. So they don't really look like this, but let's say you have that and that on there. So you have another gene on here. They're the same genes, so they're located in the same spot. Maybe there's a third gene on here. In reality, each chromosome has hundreds or thousands of genes. Okay. So on this one, so what we can see here is that we have two different chromosomes. So let's write that. Two chromosomes. Or one pair, right? We have three genes. This is genes. And then we have 6 alleles. Okay. So since the chromosomes come in pairs, the genes come in pairs too. So that means right here, I might have gotten this big A gene from mom. This is dad, and a little a gene from mom. And so let's say that we'll just make up some different examples. Okay, so maybe the A gene here codes for whether or not you have earlobes or attached earlobes. Okay, maybe the B gene codes for whether you have dimples or not. And maybe the C gene codes for something we'll talk about later is hemophilia. So, like, let's say if you have the proper blood clotting proteins or not. Okay. Just want to point out there's some of these traits that we have are not things that we can see outwardly. They are inside of our bodies. Okay. But they still can play very important roles. Okay, so what I want to address now, you've probably recognized the capital and lowercase letters from maybe middle school or something. And so let's take our dimples example. So what if we had, we're going to have two versions of this gene. We can have a capital or lowercase. So let's say we have B and we have lowercase b. Okay, and so what we have to do is assign a trait for each one of these letters. These are two different versions of the gene. You can have this version or this version. So the DNA is actually different in these two. So let's say that this one gives us dimples and this one gives us no dimples. Okay. Well, it's not as simple as that. You don't only have one letter, right? Because you get a letter from your mom and you get a letter from your dad. And with these two letters, with these are alleles, right? These letters are alleles, right? The different versions of the gene. You can make different combinations, as we see here, because in your cell, your chromosomes come in pairs. So you have big A, little a, or big A, or big B, or little b, little b. And so we have different combinations that we can make. Okay, so underneath this, let's do all the different combinations that we can make. We can make a big B. We can make a big B, little b, and we can also make a little b. Okay. If you wrote little b, big B, that is the same thing as big B, little b. Okay. But we always write the capital letter first just to keep it all similar. Okay. All right. So what these things are right here, the different letters, these are called genotypes. Okay. This is the combination of alleles are called genotypes. Geno type. So literally like the type of gene that you have. Okay. So it's the combination of alleles. I'll write that underneath. Combo of alleles. And then each one of these is going to code for a different trait. Okay. And so let's do this. Let's say if we have two big B's, dad and mom give you a big B, that obviously means that you're going to have dimples because, well, the big B stands for dimples. Now down here, if you have two little b's, that means you're going to have no dimples. And then finally, if you have a big B and a little b, you don't have one dimple or none, not in this kind of genetics that we're talking about. What it's going to mean is that the capital letter is going to overpower the lowercase letter. And if you remember, maybe write this somewhere in your margin on the side of your paper or something, but capital is going to be dominant. Capital letter is dominant. And lowercase is recessive. So what it means to be dominant is that when these two are together, the dominant one, the capital letter, is going to be the trait that shows. So in this case, this person, if they get a big B and a little b from their parents, they are also going to have dimples because the dimples is capital. It's a uppercase letter. Okay, cool. And so what these are called, the traits, we have a word for what the traits are called too, and the traits are called, phenotypes. Phenotype. And I remember this because phenotype and physical trait. So it's the physical manifestation of the gene. So it's a physical trait. Phenotype, physical, PHs. Okay. All right. So kind of one last thing to talk about here is there are names for these different genotypes. Okay. So there are names for these different genotypes that I'm going to refer to them as these names. So let's write these again. Okay, so big B, we are going to call homozygous dominant. Okay, so I bet you can guess what little b is going to be called, which is homozygous recessive. Oh, sorry, I didn't explain this. Homo means same, so we have two of the same letters, and they are dominant because they're a capital, right? So homozygous recessive, we have two lowercase letters. This one is going to be called heterozygous. All right. I think that's good for the notes today. So this is just some of the basic terms that you guys are going to need to be familiar with. And I'll lead you on here with this. You're going to be able to use these notes to help you with some practice problems. All right. Thank you very much. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay.